Welcome to Creative Piano Academy with me, Joseph Sikora, for another inspiring piano video, and today we're going to be looking at a really nice left-hand accompaniment technique used by the pros. It's going to add that sort of richness and depth to our chords, and I've called it the grounding technique, so check it out. So notice how the left hand emphasizes those low notes in the chord. That is the grounding technique. Grounding technique. Don't you just love that? Kind of sounds official, doesn't it? Now, you're definitely going to get the most out of this video if you've got a bit of experience behind you, but beginners, do not run away, because I'm going to give you a really good get started exercise to get your foot in the door, so to speak. So let's roll the intro and get cracking. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button as well as that little notification bell next to it so you know when I upload new videos. As well, head to creativepianoacademy.com where you can grab the best adult piano practice plan. So you can take any of the exercises out of this video, any of my other videos, and shove them into a proper structured practice session. So check that out. Now, the grounding technique. So I've got 3 stages for you to work towards or work through in this video. But first of all, it's important to understand what the grounding technique is. So when we're talking about left-hand piano accompaniment, we are most of the time interested in chords, okay? And we play around with those chords in various different creative ways. For this instance, we're going to take the root note of that chord, shove it down towards the bass end of the keyboard, anchor that chord, or ground the chord using that root note, and then play around with chords up above that, an octave off or whatever above that. So in practice, that sounds like this. Let's take a C major chord. We'll take the C, which is the root note, shove it down towards the bass end of the keyboard. We'll play the C, and then we'll play a chord up above. Okay. Down below, I can play octaves. Okay. So that's a grounding technique. We're going to ground the chord using the root note and then play around with it in various different ways up above. So for stage 1, that's what I want you to play around with, okay? I want you to just get into a root position. Let's take our middle C here. We'll go down an octave, and I want you to play the triad, the C major root position triad, which is a C and a G, like this. Just play that. And then we're going to take it down a full octave and just play the C with our little finger, okay? So we're going to play the C and then move up an octave for the triad, okay? Now you can play this using any chord you want, but for the purposes of getting used to it, we'll just use a C major. So notice how I'm just moving between it. This might be really difficult for you if you're just starting out, okay? Because we need to be pretty comfortable with moving between different positions on the keys. Like this. Now, when you are comfortable with this, we're going to put that into a chord progression, okay? The chord progression I'm going to use for this, most of the examples in this video is a C, a G, an A minor, and an F. Proper common, you'll have heard it all before, but it's a really nice chord progression to sort of get your foot in the door and get started with. You can use any chord sequence you want. So, C major. Okay, so I've got my root position, and then we'll take the root position of G major, so it's down here, look. So that's a G, a B, and a D. And I'll go down an octave and I'll take this low G, and then play the root position at the top. And then an A minor, like this. So I've got an A at the bottom, because that's the root note, and then the A minor chord at the top. Ground the chord, then down to the F. Grounding that F chord, okay? So that's your first exercise, really, just using root positions and going between them using octaves. Ground it. Ground it. Okay? Now, when you get used to that and you feel comfortable, you want to take things a little bit further, we can ground it even more, and we can use octaves in the low end. So instead of just a regular C, and then an octave above, like this, we'll take these octaves down below, so it sounds a bit more grand, a bit more beefy down here, look. So there's a bigger jump here. If you're finding this difficult, then, you know, just go back to the previous stage, or take it really slow while you get used to it. Okay? So, if we put that into the chord progression, we've got low Cs, okay? And then we've got a G. So notice how there isn't as much of a gap here, because I can't physically play those low octaves down here, so I'm just going to play it here instead. Whatever's appropriate. A minor, same again. And then F. Okay? So that's stage one, just playing around with those root positions, either with single notes or with octaves, okay? And I would suggest you spend as much time as you need getting used to that first. It takes quite a bit of coordination, moving between those chords. So for stage two, we're going to explore chord inversions. And this is where we start turning that left-hand part into something that sounds a bit more professional and a little bit more useful, because maybe our low chords sound a little bit muddy, we want to clean those up a bit, or maybe the right hand is interfering with our left-hand position, and we want to switch that around a bit, and we want to have the options of moving that left hand to a more suitable position. So just like in stage one, we're going to ground the chord using the grounding technique, like this. And instead of playing the root note at the top, the root chord at the top, we're going to pick a different chord inversion. This is entirely up to you, but for the purposes of demonstration, I will pick this second inversion C chord here. So instead of playing the root, I'll play the second inversion. So I'm going to ground it and play this chord here. Okay? And then I'll move on to the G. And instead of playing the root chord, maybe I'll go a bit higher this time. Maybe I'll play the first inversion G chord. Okay, G major. So that's the B, the D, and the G. Okay, so I'll ground it and then play the G major. And then maybe for the A minor chord, instead of playing this one here, I'll take it a bit lower. Okay, maybe I like that muddy richness there for this chord. So I'll play the second inversion A minor chord. Okay, and then for the F, instead of playing the root, maybe I'll play this first inversion again up here. Okay. So notice how I'm mixing and matching all these chord inversions. There's different amounts of distance I need to jump with my left hand. So this is going to add a lot of complexity to what you're practicing here. It's going to do you a world of good. So just like before, you know, spend as much time as you need getting used to this. But if I put all that together, it sounds like this. So really important to remember here is that is just one specific example of perhaps millions of exercises that you can create here. You know, all you need to do is pick your chord progression, pick your chord inversions, smash them together, practice that until you're used to it, then throw it away and then pick another chord progression, another batch of inversions, smash them together, practice it, throw it away. Before you know it, your left hand will be used to moving up and down, moving up and down the keys, moving up and down those inversions, and you'll start to get a lot more confident, a lot more fluent with the way you're playing. So for stage three, we're going to bring in a little bit of context here, because we've been doing loads in the left hand, but what about the right hand to turn it into a really nice piece of music? I want to take pattern number 2 out of my video I did called 3 right hand patterns for beginners, something like that. I'll put a link in the cards. You can use any of the patterns out of that video, but for this example, I'm going to use pattern 2. And we're using root chords like this, okay, and we just separated the notes out. So in the right hand, we just went C, E, G, E, C, E, G, E, like this. That was the pattern, okay? And we just move between the chords. And I think I used the same chord progression as I am doing in this video as well. So it should tie in really nicely. So if I had the left hand in from stage 1, if you remember, we just root note, or grounded it, and then the root chord. And then down to G, okay? So when we had the right hand in, it sounds like this. We'll just stick with one chord for now. So straight away it's got more movement, it sounds richer, it sounds nicer, okay? So if we turn that into the chord progression, using the root chords only, so don't even worry about inversions for now. went to the G. Okay. Play this as fast or as slow as you need to. Okay. So that was an example using root chords in both the left hand and the right hand. Sounds really nice, you know, it's beginning to sound like a proper piece of music. I would get used to that first, and then we can take it just one step further, play around with chord inversions, start adding in that magic and that melody and turning it into a more complex piece of music. Could sound like this. So instantly that sounds a little bit more melodic, a little bit more interesting, a bit more musical, but this is your chance now to get creative. And I always, you know, this is what my channel is all about. I want to give you the tools you can use to start creating your own music, and this is a perfect example of that. So if we break this down, all I was doing in the left hand was grounding the chord using the grounding technique. So I'm grounding that chord. I'm picking my inversion. For simplicity, I'm just using the same as I did in stage 2 for you, but it could be anything, remember? And then the G, and the A minor, and then the F. So for my left hand part, I've sorted that out. I've picked my notes, I've picked my inversions. In the right hand, again, I'm starting off with the root. But my next chord, instead of jumping down to the G, I'm just picking a different inversion. So maybe I'll go to this what is it? The first inversion, G. Okay, using the same pattern. And I go over all of this in that other right-hand pattern video as well. So all of this is covered in that as well. And then the F major. So I'm just picking different inversions as I'm going through my parts. So I've sorted out my left hand, you know, write this down if you need to. I've sorted out my right hand, and then I'm going to practice putting those together. Might take you a while to do it, but this is, you know, this is where you can get creative. Infinite number of these variations, because, you know, it's not just that chord progression either. You can pick a different chord progression, anything that you want. That's the point, and that's the kind of thing I want you to start experimenting with, because the more of that you do, the more creative you start getting, the more that you'll start to feel how these chords work together, how these inversions sort of sound, and they'll start seeping into your bones, and you'll start being able to play a lot more confidently, and these chords and these melodies will just start flowing out of you, okay? Really quick recap. Stage 1, root chords. Like this, okay? Just start by practicing getting that left hand moving up and down like this. And then bring in the chord progression. Okay, but the point is, it's all root notes. It's all root chords. Stage 2, we picked an inversion, so it's virtually the same, but instead of playing root, we picked inversions. And then for stage 3, we brought the right hand. And this was the example using root chords. And then we can start playing around with inversions. Okay, so there we are guys, 3 stages for you to work through, which kind of introduces you to how you can sound a bit more professional with that left-hand accompaniment. Now I wanted to end this video by showing you how I used this grounding technique in a piano cover that I did called Madari. You can check it out in the cards, but I used this technique to develop a more complex sounding left-hand piano pattern. This is what it sounded like. You can see how I'm grounding the chord here, G's, and then C's. Now granted, I'm using a few more sort of arpeggiated techniques there and more complex than I've gone into in this video, but you can see the seed of it, and you can see how it could develop into more complex patterns. So I thought you might find that interesting, you know, my creative process and something to look forward to. Now, the keen listeners and watchers amongst you might have noticed that I played something at the beginning of this video, but I didn't really explore it in the main lesson. So I am going to leave you with something to look forward to, and I will upload that at a future date. So make sure you like this video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel so you know when I upload that new video, and I will see you in the next video.